Hello and welcome to the LMGT3 race preview for the 6 Hours of Fuji, brought to you by Le Mans Ultimate, the official game of the FIA World Endurance Championship. My name's Alexa Rendell. I'm joined by resident WEC expert Sam Smith, and today, in the land of the rising sun, we're going to talk to you all things LMGT3 ahead of what could possibly be a championship deciding weekend. And actually being in this setting is pretty incredible. We've got the Fuji Speedway Hotel with a fantastic museum of cars below it. We've got teams based nearby. We drove past D Station's factory on the way into track this morning. Everybody wants to win here for their own reason. Everyone's got something to prove. And Sam, tell us a little bit about this track from the perspective of these LMGT3 cars. Is it more challenging around here with plenty of hypercars around them?
Well, it's a bit of an unknown, isn't it? Because it's the first time that they've actually been to Fuji in a competitive point of view. I mean, it's interesting that we're here at this Sector 3 just before the main straight.
We should probably point out, we do know we are going the wrong way around.
We are going the wrong way around.
We do know this before you guys come at us in the comment section.
There's a good reason for that, because it gives you a different perspective on the exits out of these tight corners in Sector 3. Super important, particularly for the GT3 cars, and how they can actually contribute to the management of the traffic, because they don't want to really be passed into here. They want to be passed on the straight, where it's easier for everybody to get back into position and to lose as little time as possible. So I think this sector is going to be crucial for the GT3 battle on Sunday afternoon. It's what the yin and yang of when you're getting past with the hypercars coming through, and how you can maybe maximise it by getting onto the straight and letting the hypercars go on that nearly mile-long straight here.
And actually, what an LMGT3 battle I think it's shaping up to be this weekend, because as I mentioned before, the championship could be decided in LMGT3 this weekend. Our main contender is the number 92 Manthey Porsche. In second place, well, funny enough, it's another Manthey Porsche, but there's a pretty hefty gap between the two of them, actually second, third and fourth. Sam, what needs to happen this weekend for things to play out the right way for the 92?
Yeah, they've now got a 28-point lead over the opposition, which, as you said, is their stablemates in the 91 car. They can take the title this weekend. I think it's unlikely. Having said that, they've been so consistent. Alexander Malikin, Joel Sturm and Klaus Bachler in that EMA and the Lithuanian car. I think that it will still go to Bahrain, but I think they'll be able to really not take it easy, because you can't do that in the WEC, we know that, but I think they'll be able to go there with a bit of a reasonable margin. Don't forget there's 39 points available in the 8 hours of Bahrain, extra points there, so it's still open in a sense. But between the two Manthey cars, you know, we know that they're competitive rivals. We know that there'll be no team orders, that they will be allowed to scrap for it themselves.
Actually, that was my next question to jump in, because we just spoke in our hypercar preview, available now on YouTube if you want to watch it, about the battle between the number 7 and number 8 Toyota and how they help each other. The 91 is a really decent chunk behind the 92. Granted, they are second, but surely Manthey are going to be looking at this and saying, we'd rather just wrap both championships up than have you two take each other out.
Of course, as a team ethic, that's what you want. Doesn't work like that with individuals either in the garage, working for whichever side of the team, and of course the drivers. It's a fierce rivalry. It's a world championship. You know, the prestige of winning the first ever LMGT3 title is going to be front and centre of their minds. The 92 has what feels like an unassailable lead, but you know, when you get into the real sort of nub and the real action of a title fight, funny things can happen. The 92 has had a wonderful season, 6 podium positions, in a win. Obviously, they've taken 2 pole positions as well. They missed out at Le Mans to the 91 car, but it's still a fantastic season for them. And I think for me, the way that they've built that has its roots in sort of pre-season as well, because they got to know each other in the Asian Le Mans series, and I think that just galvanises the team spirit. And you know, you become second nature, thinking with your teammates, thinking with the team, how they work, how they strategise things. They've had a superb season. I think Porsche will be strong here again, so I would expect that they'll be hunting for a podium. But look, if they get the momentum they had at certain races this season, they could easily win another race here, and potentially, depending on what the 91 does, put the championship to bed.
Actually, speaking of the championship, to give you a little bit of an overview, second, third and fourth are separated by just a handful of points. So for the fight to realistically go down to Bahrain, you kind of expect the 92 to need to not score points this weekend for everything to really close up. And one of the teams I think is particularly interesting, currently sitting in fourth place, is Heart of Racing with Aston Martin. They won last time out in Qatar. Now they're coming here, a track where Aston Martin have historically been very successful. They'll be wanting another good result to try and keep themselves in that championship fight. And then on the other hand, as we mentioned before, D-Station Racing are based 2 minutes that way, I think, maybe?
Very close.
Everybody is going to be wanting a really good result from that Aston Martin operation this weekend. Is it feasible from what you've seen of the car this year?
Yeah, and true hometown hero status for D-Station. Of course, got a podium last season. I think in their own way, they'll probably admit they've had a bit of a disappointing season in terms of results. But Marco Sorensen stayed with Clément Mathieu and Erwan Bastard in that car. I think they could capitalise on that podium from last season. But listen, Heart of Racing have been the predominant Aston Martin on pace and results this season.
And we've been saying it all year, that they've been due a win.
It's felt like the win was coming. It has now. You know, it's not beyond the realms of possibilities that they could double up, get back-to-back victories and be back in the title hunt and blow the title hunt wide open if the Manthey Porsches falter. So it's still all to play for. And let's not forget the 31 as well, the WRT run BMW M4. They have the possibility of getting into title fight as well. And WRT are unbeaten here in LMP2. I mean, they've got a run of success going back to 2022. Ever since they first came in, BMW actually took their first podium here way back in GT Pro as well. So there's a bit of pedigree for BMWs here at Fuji. So watch out for a challenge from them as well.
And another car that's obviously worth talking about is the entrant of Vista AF Corsa. What do you think of them heading into this weekend, Sam?
Well, they showed last year that they can get the job done with the 54 car. They had some bad luck, didn't they, last time out in Qatar? Didn't even make it to the grid after that formation lap clutch issue, and they rejoined. They got some data, got the car sort of tested really for this race. I think they'll take a bit of momentum from what they achieved last season, although it was a different category and a different rule set, of course. But a little bit like the Heart of Racing car, I think their results don't reflect their pace and their potential.
I really agree.
So I did tip them last time, probably not going to this time, but I expect them to be close. Don't forget the 55 car as well. I think Simon Mann and Francois Heriot in that car they share with Alessio Rivera have shown some really, at least, podium challenging pace. They've not quite had it. They've got a good points haul, actually, better than the 54.
So they're the best of the rest, aren't they, currently, sitting in fifth? So I think that fight's about to suddenly get quite interesting, with everybody from fifth, well, down, looking to try and capitalise on these last couple of races of the season, certainly them included.
I think we're due a Ferrari challenge to the Aston Martins and the BMWs and obviously the Porsches at the front of the field. So I wouldn't rule them out. I think between those four manufacturers in GT3, I expect them to be at the front again. Might be some interlopers with TF Sport. They were better on pace in certainly one lap pace anyway in Qatar. And the United Autosport McLarens, I think, you know, they've had some solid results. Just missed out on a podium in Qatar, but you know, they both the 59 and the 95 have got the potential to mix it with them. And obviously, you know, they've got a Japanese influence through Marino Sato as well, who's making his WEC debut on home turf at Fuji. You know, ironically, he's done the majority of his racing in Europe, and he's coming home this weekend, so he'll be
nice
up for a challenge. Yeah,
really nice. And then one car that we have to mention, because there's a little bit of driver news, as there always is with this car going on through this season now. We've got Christian Reed back in the Proton Competition Mustang this weekend, replacing Ben Keating. Again, as we keep saying with this Mustang car, they feel like there's a lot of potential there, and they just keep getting unlucky, and standard luck of the draw in endurance racing. However, last time out, particularly in America, in front of that home crowd, which, by the way, was going absolutely wild for the noise of that Mustang, they just seemed to get unlucky, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's a question of them getting on top of this car. We knew it was going to take at least 3 or 4 races. They seemed to make a breakthrough at Spa, sort of around Spa time, and then they had a decent run at Le Mans. Haven't quite got the results that I think they expected at this sort of stage of the season. They've got some fantastic personnel, and Multimatic bring a hell of a lot to that program with Proton competition, and obviously Ford Mustang as well. Nice to see Christian Reed back in the seat. He's had some great races here at Fuji.
They can't keep that man in retirement.
Yeah,
you can't make that man retire.
A long and illustrious record in the WEC. Obviously the driver who's made more WEC appearances than any other. I just think with the coming here, the relative lack of tyre data for Goodyear here, with a new package, it might be a bit of an ask to get them into the sort of podium positions. But I have the feeling that there is still a surprise in that Ford Mustang package for before the end of the season. So whether it's not here, I think in Bahrain might suit them a bit better when we're talking about the braking, which it appears to be pretty strong on braking and entry and the exits from those sort of pretty tight corners after straights. It could suit them a lot more in Bahrain.
And just very briefly, we haven't mentioned the Lambos and we haven't mentioned Lexus. Any points we need to know on that front heading into this weekend?
Well, Lamborghini, again, we talked about reliability last time, didn't we, with the Iron Dames, and the Iron Lynx is quick, particularly Franck Pereira in that car, usually in the top 3 of the free practice sessions. Iron Dames, they were there in Qatar, but ultimately had a bit of a messy one with the TF Sport with contact. Lost a lot of time. Yeah, they'll be there. They always are. It's just a question of having a clean race and getting up to ensuring that they're there in the last hour. I think in terms of the Codis ASP team, obviously we know that this isn't one of the newest designs. It's been around for quite a while, that chassis and that package, but it's still capable of a result. They haven't quite got it this season.
Is there a home race for one of them this weekend as well?
Takashi Kimura is making his WEC debut on home turf, so it's going to be nice to see Kimura in LMGT3. I think there's a lot for the Japanese crowd to really get their teeth into here. Obviously with Toyota, with Kimura, and obviously with TF Sport with Kazuki in that Hiroshi Kazumi in that car that he shares with Daniel Juncadella. So yeah, lots to celebrate for Japanese motorsport, and I think from my perspective we're now going to go to the feared predictions, are we not? You
beat me to it, Sam. Come on, what do you expect? I mean, we've already established that this weekend we think will be very, very competitive.
Yeah, it's really hard. I think it's going to be one of the closest GT3 races we've seen this season, because they're still going to be finding their feet over stint lengths with the Goodyear tyres in particular. Goodyear do this fantastic Wingfoot trophy where it gives the best average stints of drivers, and looking at that, you see who is really making the difference. I've got a feeling that Heart of Racing are on this upward curve, this momentum that got them the win. I think they could double up. The question then is, where do the BMW and the 2 Porsches finish, and could that really spice things up for the championship? My prediction says that Heart of Racing will get back-to-back wins and will go into Bahrain with a real title fight on our hands.
Bold, maybe controversial predictions as always, Sam, but I would expect nothing less. Thank you for joining us, and thank you too. Now, all of the action's going to be unfolding throughout the course of this weekend. FP3 will be available for free on our YouTube channel, and the rest of the action will be on FIAWEC.tv. We're bringing you updates all across our social media, and at the very end of the race weekend, we will be joined by our winners for our post-race debrief. Make sure we see you there.